Hi everyone, I'm Allie Buchman with the Potomac Bead Company here, and trending a lot right now are tassels. So I'm going to show you how to make a tassel. There's some machines out there that you can make tassels and you can manufacture them. Thinking about it and looking at the different machines, it's really just a simple technique. I'm going to be making a tassel out of our silk thread. You can really do this with any sort of materials. I'm going to be also beading on it, so that's why I like to have these needles attached. So I'm going to be using the Griffin beading silk, and I'm using the natural silk in an 8 size. I'm going to be using 2 different colors because I do need 2 packages of it. If you have an end of silk, that actually works out really well. Also, if you've gotten a couple packs, maybe done some knotting, and you have ends of silk, you're going to be able to make a lot of tassels out of those ends. I'm using the aqua color, that light sapphire aqua blue, and I'm also using the gray color. To complement that, I'm using some aqua colored 6mm faceted round check glass. I'm using some opalite beads. These are opalite 5x8 rondelles, as well as an opalite multifaceted nugget. In addition to my pretty beads here, I'm also going to be using some spacers and some metal. Metal-wise, I have some brass-colored pewter daisy spacers, and I'm going to be using those just to match and kind of darken up that soft look a little bit. I also have bullet caps. They are pewter as well, but that brass color, and that's going to be used at the end of our little tassel. And then I have a cup button so that way I can take the necklace on and off. I'm going to be making a fairly long version. You don't really need a button. You could kind of tie it off in the back, but it does allow you and kind of gives you options. A lot of the tassel necklaces that I see people wearing on TV and that I like to wear are longer necklaces. So I'm going to make this necklace at about 32 inches. Tool-wise, I'm using a scissors, very, very handy. I'm working on a bead mat here. I also have some clear nail polish, that's optional. I have some super new glue as well. And that's really all you're gonna need. If you wanna use a scissors, you can do that instead of the little thread nippers, that's up to you. But these are all the materials that I'm gonna use in order to make my long tassel necklace. So I've pushed my beads out of the way, and I'm going to be starting off with my silk. If you want to do a tassel that has multiple colors, you're going to use both sets of silk. I'm going to be doing multiple colors, so again, I am going to start with both pieces in order to do my little tassel here. I'm going to be starting this necklace at the end with the tassel and then continuing up from there. There's a couple different techniques that you can do when you're doing this, so don't be shy to use different techniques to do your tassel, to use wire, all of that. Try out and experiment what works for you. As you can see, I'm taking the Griffin in the gray off the cord. This is because this is going to be the base for my necklace. This is what I'm going to go up the sides of my necklace with. So I'm going to take that off the cord completely. And what you always want to do with a silk cording is the silk's going to stretch. It also has these bends in it, so you want to pre-stretch your cording. Some people will take water and do water on their cording. Some people will iron it and stretch it as well. The thicker the silk cording, so 8 is going to be thick, 10 is going to be thicker, 3 is going to be rather thin. The thicker that it is, so like the size 8 is going to stretch a fair amount. I want to pre-stretch that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fold over the card that it came on, and not pulling through the needle, I'm just going to pull on the silk. I'm going to put a lot of tension and pull that silk through. You can see those bends are starting to come out. And again, I'm pulling and putting a lot of tension. You definitely want to use a card, otherwise you will get rope burn on your fingers. You can use something else too if you have it sitting around. But I usually just use these, that way it's all encompassing, all in one pack. So I'm pulling that through here. I'm going to do that 2 times just to make sure that it really is pulled very well. So starting at the top there, pulling through. If you want to, some people will put weights on either end and pull that way. Just make sure whichever method you use in order to stretch out your silk, that you are not going to rip off your needle at the end. The needle is a twisted needle and it's really flexible. That's why I've chosen to use this Griffin brand. So now that I have my gray done, I'm actually going to sit my gray off to the side a little bit. I'm going to go in with my blue, and my blue is going to be my tassel color. Again, you can do multicolors, that's up to you. This is going to be super simple. So when you have it on the Griffin silk, The needle is usually tucked into the back of the package. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull the needle out, and I'm gonna pull out 2 lengths of thread. I'm going to go to the other side here, and I'm going to rip off the end of the card. You can change up the size that you're doing your tassel, the length of it, by wrapping around something else. I'm gonna do it really, really simple. I'm going to slide my needle underneath all of my threads here. So I'm sliding that flexible needle, and you can see I'm kind of having to work it a little bit. I'm gonna slide it underneath all of them, right to the end. I'm gonna pull that through. Once I have it through the whole side, I'm gonna have just a little bit left on the other side. I'm gonna take my needle and go through that loop. That's creating a little bit of a knot that's going to join all of this together. Sliding then my silk off the card. As I do it, I'm gonna pull that knot again and pull that knot tight. Push it up right to the top, making sure that you have a nice tight hold on it. That's gonna be my tassel. What I wanna do after I have that nice tight knot is do another one. So I'm then gonna take my thread and I'm going to wrap around my thread there, and I'm gonna create a knot going through that loop that I just made. I wanna push that down onto my threads so I have just a little bit sticking out the top there of each. Give a nice tight pull, and there you have your tassel. Now at the top here, it is gonna be a little bit jumbled, and you do wanna make sure, like I said, to do a nice tight pull. You can even do multiple knots here. Knotting this again to hold it all together. And there we go. What I'm gonna do at this point is I'm gonna go in and grab my bullet end. I'm gonna put that bullet end right onto the cording just to show you, but we're gonna slide it off and do some gluing. So my needle is going through that bullet end of this brass colored pewter. And basically what we're gonna be doing is pulling that tight, pushing that up, and our tassel is gonna come right out the end of our bullet clasp there. Before I do that, again, I wanna do a little bit of glue. So I'm gonna take my super new glue here. And you don't wanna over glue. We're just gonna drop some on. As it's dropping on, and as I'm holding it, I'm going to pull that knot one more time. Make sure that it's nice and tight. You might get a little bit of glue on your fingers, but that way you know it's nice and tight. I'm then gonna go up to the top here and just drop a couple more dabs in. Let that sit and let that dry. And then when it's dry, we're gonna go in here and work on the bottom. If you have one or two that fall out, don't worry about it. It's really not going to matter when you're working with it. So once your glue has dried a little bit, we're going to put my bullet cap on now. And we're just gonna push that down the whole way over the end there of the tassel. Give a nice tight pull, and that's gonna go up inside there. So there I have my tassel just kind of hanging out there at the bottom. What you can do then is just kind of set this aside. You do want to have a little bit of thread there hanging out because we're going to use that thread in order to help us tie on to our long necklace. So right now we're kind of done with the tassel for the time being, and we're going to go up now and we are going to get ready to make our necklace portion of this long tassel necklace. So I'm now getting ready to do the necklace portion. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be holding my silk at the very, very end of the cording, the end opposite of the needle. I'm going to then pick up my cording, going to the needle. You can straighten out that needle. And I'm going to put my cup button on, going up through the back of the cup button. I'm going to pick up one of my little sapphire, my aqua beads there, sorry. Then I'm going to run down through the opposite side of the cup button. That's just going to kind of decorate that little cup button at the end. I'm going to pull this the whole way down, so I'm going the whole way down to the cording, to the very, very end of the cording. Taking the two ends then of the thread, the one that's short at the end of the silk, and then the one that's long that the needle's connected to. I'm just going to tie a knot. I'm going to tie 3 knots. Give nice tight pulls to the ends of those knots. There we go. I'm going to leave that extra cording on there because what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and hit it with my glue at the very, very end. But that little bead just decorates that cup button in that Aztec color a little bit. That way when you're looking at it, it just gives kind of a nice little shine to it. I'm then going to work on my necklace design. How you design your necklace is up to you. Just know that the more weight you put on the necklace, the more tension there's going to be on the necklace. We want to make sure that our sides match. You can have the whole entire necklace cording connected. You can do this with beading wire. It's up to you. I'm going to be doing this with the silk cording, and I'm going to be tying knots. I'm going to do freehand knots. You can use a reamer, or I'm sorry, not a reamer, a tip, a knotting awl if you want to do that. An awl will work to help you do the knots. I'm just going to freehand knot it. And I didn't get all the kinks out of this silk because I don't really care if it gets a tiny, tiny bit longer. That's not part of my design. I'm going to tie a knot right about in 1/2 inch down from the button, and then I'm going to start my design. My design is going to be started with my daisy spacer. Then I'm going to do one of my rondelles in my opalite color, and then another daisy spacer. I'm letting them all drop down next to my first knot. I'm going to tie another knot and then continue on. The size of the silk that you're using for this necklace portion will depend on your beads. Different size silk will go through different holes of beads. Size 8, you're usually good with all check glass as well as gemstones. Some gemstones will have a finer hole as well as pearls, so you may need to go down a size. I'm then going to go down about another 1/2 inch. I'm going to make this necklace pretty consistent, going approximately 1/2 inch. If it's a little bit off, no fear. No one's going to notice that much. You're going to be your worst critic on this here. And you can see I'm doing a lot off screen because this is a really, really long piece of silk cording, but you always want to use the silk rather than cutting it off the needle and trimming it down. You waste then. So you want to always start with the whole piece of silk. Pull all of it through. And you can see I'm just kind of decorating the sides there with the brass. Again, I'm going to make this about a 32-inch necklace. And doing an inch apart with each of these. I'll have about 30 beads on by the time I have the clasp. And what you want to make sure is whatever you do one side, you just want to do to the other side. So you don't need to focus too hard on the actual measurement until you get to the other side. Again, I'm making this very simple here, going right along. I'm just designing and picking up as I go. This is also a great design and a great necklace if you have random beads. You can make it colorful. I've gotten really used to getting that knot pretty close without using an awl. It's just a sewer's knot, just a regular knot. Push that in place. Also, as I'm knotting, you can see some of those little kinks are coming out. As I'm knotting, I'm putting tension on the cording, and that's helping to get those kinks out. I'm going to put on more of my beads, and I'm just going to continue in this fashion, doing about an inch, a little bit less. If you're a perfectionist, you can get out your ruler and measure. If you have a knotting tool, you can also use that. That's up to you. But here I am just continuing with that design. I'm doing 2 blues for every opalite. I'm going to continue on right till I get about 16 inches, and then I'm going to go in and show you how I'm going to attach the tassel. So I've gotten to the end of my 16 inches here, and I've just alternated my pattern using the opalite beads and then 2 of my aqua 6mm check glass. Towards the end, to give a little bit more weight to the necklace, I've used 2 and then 1 on either side. So that's been the 16 inches of that necklace. That's the design that I used for it. Now what I'm going to do is actually add my tassel in. To add my tassel in, I'm going to put my opalite bead right there, that big, heavy, kind of multifaceted opalite bead. I put that onto the silk needle of the griffin thread. I'm going to then take this thread and I'm going to put it around, or the needle, I'm putting it around the gray thread. I'm then going to take my needle and thread and go back down the opalite bead, thus creating a loop that's going around my silk cording. So my blue loop is going around my blue, or around my gray silk cording. I'm going to push that all down towards my little button, or my little bullet end there, and then I'm going to pull that silk so I make sure that I don't have a lot of extra silk showing. I want to pull the gray almost into the bead there, as you see, because I want that Y design. When I have it exactly where I want it to be, I'm going to take that initial blue thread going around my tassel in between the bullet and my silk, or in between my bullet, sorry, in between the bullet and the opalite bead, and I'm just going to tie a knot. So I made a loop. If you're a seed beater and you do bead threading, it's the same there as you do an end. So I just have a little knot separating in between. At this point, if you want to, you can drop a little dab of glue there, and that's going to kind of hold it all in place. I'm done attaching my tassel now, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to go in. Since I have this tassel attached, I'm going to go in and I'm going to create the same pattern with my check glass and my opalite on the other side of my necklace, so that way the two sides match. So I'm doing this for another 16 inches. I'm going to redo that same exact pattern that I have on the first side. Just to show you as I'm doing this second side here, when I get ready to do my knots, I kind of line it up to the first side. So I'm going to go in here, eyeball about that inch apart, pulling my whole thread through, tying my knot, and then as I get ready to pull my knot, I kind of control with my fingers exactly where that knot goes. Once I have it match the other side distance-wise, I give a nice tight pull, and then I'm going to add my beads on. If you have trouble knotting or you haven't knotted before, what you can do is look at some of the other videos too that I have showing how to knot pearls or to knot gemstones as well. So I'm here at the end and I've gotten my necklace completed. So I have my whole kind of tassel look to the bottom, and then I have my necklace. The last thing we'll do is kind of go in, cut the tassels, blue and all of that. But right now I'm going to be making my loop for my cup button. Again, it's a long enough necklace. I could just tie a knot and put it over the head. What I'm going to do is line up my cup button right there at the end, and I'm going to make a loop to go through my cup button. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to double the thread here right after the last bead, and I'm going to then just tie an overhand knot. I want the loop to be big enough for the cup button to go through, but not too big that it's going to really fall through. So I've doubled that, I tie a knot. Once I know the size that I want and I'm in position that I want, I give a nice tight pull. And that's going to make my loop to go around my cup button. So this is a very simple, you don't need wire, you don't need all of that extra tools. I'm going to then just do a dab of the super glue on that knot. I'm going to go back now to my cup button, do a dab of glue on that cup button as well. Down here at the end then, what we're going to do while that's drying before I trim those is I'm going to go in and actually have the fun now of cutting my tassel. The reason I said that you could have the clear nail polish if you want is that the silk is going to fray. It's twisted silk and it is going to fray at the ends. I happen to like that look. If you don't, just take a little clear nail polish. You can even take a little dab of the super glue kind of to each end and paint it on. I'm not going to bother to do that because I like that frayed look. The first thing I'm going to do is cut off that extra thread that came out the bottom there. If you have a thread burner and you want to burn that down a little bit, you can do that as well. When you're working with a glued piece of silk, you can also use wire cutters to get in there closer and to make a nice cut. So there I have that. Now I get to have fun with my tassels here at the bottom. One by one, you're going to go in with your thread nips and you're just going to cut those tassels. If you want to make them any shorter, any shorter, can't make them longer. That would have been done at the very front. Pick a different piece of cardboard to wrap them around. If you want to make them any shorter, you can do that as well. You can trim them down at this point. So I'm just going in, cutting through all of those, and making sure I've gotten them all. And there I have my fun tassel. I'm going to go in then to that one that I had that was a little bit long, that got escaped, and just cut off that extra thread. So there I have my tassel, and that's connected then to my big bead with my knots. By now, the glue has dried here. And I'm going to go in and trim that down. I'm going to trim down the other side on the cup button. Push all my beads out of the way so you can kind of see a little bit. It's hard to see when you do necklaces because they're so long that they kind of go out of focus. But here is the fun, long tasseled. It's almost like an opera length at 32 inches. I could, if I want to, also double it. The cup button will appear then at the middle. And it's a really, really fun way and quick and super easy way to do that design with the tassel without using any machinery, without using any wire. You're just connecting it all together to itself. I actually think I'm going to put this on today and maybe make a couple more. Again, if you have some ends of Griffin silk, you have some extra left over, that's a great thing. But all in all, it's a really inexpensive necklace to make. You're just using 2 things of the silk thread. You have a beautiful silk necklace that you can wear multiple ways, and you're really in fashion and style with that fun little tassel on the end. Again, if you need any help with any of these other techniques like the knotting or the gluing, I have plenty of videos to help you do that as well. Material-wise, if you're not crazy about the silk, you can use anything that you have, embroidery floss, you can use cotton cording. Ceylon will be a little bit stiff, but that's up to you, or Eslon, a little bit stiff, again, up to you. But you can really have fun with this. Again, you don't have to do so many beads. You can do less beads, more beads. You can do a really great variety of stuff with this, just using the silk cording, a couple beads, and your main thing that you're going to need is just some sort of an end comb. So hopefully this gave you some ideas. It's a fun, happy spring necklace. We're getting ready for spring. Fingers crossed, no more snow here in the Northeast, that we're done with all of that. And we'll have fun wearing this long kind of boho chic Victorian opera-ish necklace with the tassel. If you get a chance, you can also view the rest of our YouTube videos. You can also like us on Facebook to get regular updates, see the different things that I'm working on, and to get ideas from other beaders as well. If you click down to show more on this, it'll also give you a link to get some of these materials. You can shop at your local Potomac Bead Company. We'd love to see you in. All stores are going to carry all materials that are used for this necklace. If you can't get into a local Potomac Bead Company, you can always shop with us online. Thanks a lot for watching, and happy beading, everyone.